Morning all. Another podcast in the brewery. Hope you're all well. I said that the next one was going to be fishing, and the podcast is called Cast and Contrast. However, as you can see, we're back in the brewery, basically because the weather has been so shit. Everyone's talking about it. Yeah, I think the more people talk about it, the more depressing it actually gets as well. So I'm trying to be productive, trying to make beer. The weather is what it is, but it's stopping me going fishing. Has reminded me though that some time ago when I was a young fella living in London, there used to be people come round and recruit for work. It wasn't good work, and we always used to complain about the price, but it was stuff like sitting on the motorway exits and counting the cars that came off the exit. Strange work. Back in the day, it needed to be done. I'm sure there's some AI thing that'll do it these days. However, people used to sit with clickers on the side of the motorway and do that sort of thing. And I don't know why we expected better pay for it, because it was just unskilled work. However, they used to come to the bars. I'm wondering if it was slightly exploitative. Anyway, one day they came to the bar in London and said that they had another job which was better paid. So asked a few questions, and it turned out it was medical testing. The pay was good. I can't remember, but this is early 90s, mid 90s I'm talking about. So for us at the time, the pay was exceptional. So, of course, interested, we went along. I went along. Actually, I was on my own. I say we, I was on my own. Some people call that the royal we, but I don't know what that's about. And sorry, I'm just doing some brewing at the same time here. I'll talk about that in a minute. So that was interesting. I went along and I was quite nervous. We ended up in a psychiatric hospital. And I remember thinking, okay, this is serious. When the staircase that we had to use to get up to where we were going had netting on the stairwell to stop people jumping down the stairwell. So I was like, okay, this is serious shit. Bit nervous. Like I say, I was just a young fella, didn't really know what I was doing. And it started off filling out questionnaires. I remember getting handed, it was like a phone book. We don't get phone books anymore, but it was like a massive yellow pages, white pages of questionnaires. There was hundreds of these questions. So we had to do that while we had a drug test. And while I'm waiting for the drug test, this guy next to me, South African fella, said to me, listen, do you think a general anesthetic would show up on a drug test? And I said, well, listen, I'm no doctor, but I think it might actually. Why? And he explained to me that that very morning, he'd had a general anesthetic, to have a lung biopsy, again for medical testing. And it was at this point I thought, holy Moses. I asked him a lot about it, and he said that he does it all the time, and that's how he was funding his trip around the world. So he was traveling around the world doing medical testing to fund it. I spoke to another fella later in the day, and he was also doing a similar thing. And he was trying to convince me the best one to get involved in was to actually have he had his toe removed. He had the toe next to his little toe, pinky toe, I don't know what you call it. And they take that one because when they reattach it, You don't have nerves, but apparently you don't need nerves in that toe. I would like nerves in that toe. I'd like nerves everywhere. However, he had that done, and I can't remember how much, but I was absolutely astounded. So I very quickly learned that a lot of people in the room did this as some sort of loose career. I couldn't believe it. So I was nervous, very nervous. Medical testing, didn't really know what it was about. Didn't know what drugs I was taking. I think one of the reasons I was pretty clean living, and there weren't too many clean living people at university in the 90s. So that's why I was able to do these things. And like I say, there were a lot of people who were apparently drug-free because they were passing the drug tests, but acting quite weird, I would have to say, at the same time. Actually doing this. So we did the drug test, did a questionnaire, and then we took a tablet. We did not know what this tablet was. And then we had to wait round all day. We got a meal. And then we had to do another questionnaire. And we were there for hours. Like I say, when I say a questionnaire, it wasn't just ticking. Although when you're asked hundreds of questions, I think with these tick box type things, you can fall into that trap quite readily. So you're ticking away, lots of pretty normal, boring questions. And then suddenly out the blue, maybe it was to keep you awake. Maybe it was to stop you just ticking. But it would ask you a question such as, have you ever had sexual thoughts about your mother? That gets your attention, it repulses, and that was what happened. We then went home, and 4 days later we came back, took another tablet, and did another questionnaire. At the end of all this, we got some feedback, and apparently I'd taken a placebo. So that didn't. I was relieved, but also a bit disappointed. I don't know why, but that's how I felt at the time. Relieved that I didn't actually take a drug, and disappointed that I filled all these questionnaires in and I probably just said the same answers over and over again. Don't know if people remember, but I was reminded of this a few years ago because some people doing a drug trial, I think it was in Manchester, and they died. A couple of people died. People ended up in comas. So as a young person, I didn't really know what I was getting involved in. I think these drug trials are very necessary, but we shouldn't be taking them lightly either. So why was I thinking of that? The reason I was thinking of that is because I was told afterwards that the drug that we were actually testing was for SADS, which I think is seasonal associated depression. So, two things. If you're taking any of that medication, and I think we all need a bit of it at the moment, I was pleased to help, pleased to do my little bit. But then, ironically, I have thought about it and think, fuck me, I wish I could get some of that medication now, because this weather is terrible. I think it's rained every day since Christmas, someone told me. So yeah, unprecedented. So I'm in the brewery instead of fishing. I'd rather be fishing, but to be honest, I'm lucky to have the brewery. It's a bit of sanctuary for me. And today I am brewing a stout. I live in Belfast. I wasn't going to brew a stout because we come from the land of Guinness, and I thought, no, Guinness is good. It's an international brand. I'm not going to go anywhere near that. But for some reason, I can't remember why I did. And it turns out that it's a very popular beer for me. People are always asking for it. So I brew it, but it's a bugger of a brew. It's got about 7 different grains in it. All have to be weighed out. It's dark, it's thick, it's rich, it's like treacle, and messy. And because it's so rich and thick, I don't get a lot out of it in terms of the outputs as we could do if we did something like a session IPA. However, you got to brew what the people want. And whenever it dries up, I'm always asked. The other thing is Paddy's Day. People are always looking for a bit of brewing on Paddy's Day. So happy to help out with that. So yeah, a beer I never wanted to make. Not really a style I would drink much of myself. I would actually, that's not fair. I had a stout last night. But that's where we're at with it. So yes, aside from that, there's not much else. I am looking forward to getting fishing again. I hope I can take you with me. I'm not sure when it will be. But in the meantime, I think that's about it. Till next time.